Here we have your skin model showing you the different layers and accessory structures in the skin. This particular model is divided into 3 sections. This section over here shows your typical thin skin. This section here shows you axillary skin. And this third section here shows you thick skin. So let's go through the different layers of the skin first, where we have the epidermis. You can tell the epidermis, you find that wavy line that curves up and down, and everything from that line up is your epidermis. So if we start with the stratum corneum, we see the stratum corneum here is this top pink layer. You see it's much thicker in the thick skin than it is in the thin skin, which is what makes the thick skin thick skin. Below that, only in the thick skin, you'll have this layer shown in white here as the stratum lucidum. You see you don't have it here. That is the stratum lucidum found only in the thick skin. Below that is the stratum granulosum, which is the dark line that you see here going across all the way through thick and thin skin. Then all of this that you see here is the stratum spinosum all the way across until you get to the very bottom, the very last row of cells that follows those curves up and down, and that is your stratum basale or stratum germinativum, whichever term you use. Then from here down, we have your dermis. So up at the top here, where you see these bumps on the surface here, these are your dermal papillae. So where you have the dermal papillae, this is what makes up the papillary layer of the dermis, just right up here where the curves of your dermal papillae would be. Everything below that here in the dermis would be the reticular layer of the dermis. So you have the papillary layer up here and the reticular layer down here. Then down here we have the hypodermis or subcutaneous tissue, whichever one you use. The hypodermis here is the fatty layer beneath the dermis, the adipose connective tissue down here. The parts of the skin, if we run through the accessory structures, if we start with the hair, above the surface you have the hair shaft, and below the surface you have the hair root. Right? Around the hair root, what the hair is growing out of is the follicle, so that's sort of the pinky purple that you see here, or the blue or kind of blue-gray around here where it's not cut open. But around the root is the follicle itself. So we have the follicle, the root, and then once it clears the surface, it becomes the shaft. Attached to the hair follicles, we have the sebaceous glands, again here cut open and not cut open, but here's the sebaceous gland around the hair follicle. Then we have the erector pili attached to the hair follicles, the muscles, the smooth muscles that help cause the hair to stand up. Then we have your glands, your sweat glands. We have the eccrine sweat glands here, and we have this larger apocrine sweat gland here. And again, these are the same thing. This is just not cut open, and this one is cut open so that you can see the little rings of the tubes inside here. So you see if these are side by side, they look very much alike, only this one is bigger. The apocrine is larger than the eccrine, and your designer for this particular model also gave you another clue showing you that although this one is white, this one is sort of yellow, reminding you that this is the yellowy, fatty lipid sweat that we see here. So this is the apocrine sweat gland. And then lastly we have your corpuscles for sensory corpuscles. You have the Pacinian corpuscle down here. You can always recognize it by these concentric circles that you see here, located in either the lower layers of the dermis or down into the hypodermis. And then up at the top, the very top, up so far up in the dermis that they are actually into these little dermal papillae that you see here, and those are your Meissner's corpuscles. So your Meissner's corpuscles are for sensing light touch, whereas your Pacinian is for sensing pressure.